There are 5 reasons why your hand recovery may be stalling after your stroke. I'll explain each one and give you some practical tips to make sure that you don't make these mistakes and get you back to making progress. Mistake number 1 is training grip more than you do release. So if you're doing things like squeezing stress balls, using therapy, things like that are focused on the grip portion of your hand movement, you may be missing a real key component. After a stroke, often, not always the case, grip comes back somewhat easier than the opening and relaxing of the hand. And this is for several different reasons, but one of the most common is that the flexors become more dominant, the ones that bend the fingers and the wrist muscles, and the extensors are often weaker. This is compounded if you experience increased muscle tone and spasticity. So if you're prioritizing grip exercises, you're really missing half of the puzzle. So what can you do to address this issue? Well, if you've only been focusing on squeezing exercises, start biasing your rehab toward the extension, the opening of the hand and the fingers and the wrist. It may also be more helpful to start with wrist extension before moving to finger extension. And what might this look like in an exercise progression? So first, you can just start with passively opening your hand and your fingers and bending the wrist back, using your other hand to help. Then you can move into something we call gravity eliminated exercises. So either with your hand resting on the side or palm up, you can try to let those fingers open up and push them back. Or you can also practice moving your wrist back with your hand supported on a table. And from there, you can move into more active extension, where you're actively trying to just fight against gravity by bending your fingers back, maybe having your hand flat on a tabletop. And if you're looking for an exercise routine that covers both wrist extension and finger extension exercises, I'm going to link some videos down in the description below that you might find helpful. Mistake number 2 is skipping proximal stability. And here's why this matters. Fine movement control is built on having a stable trunk, scapula, and shoulder control, because the shoulder is doing a lot of the stabilizing work for your arm that allows you to do more fine motor movement at your hand. So how do you rebuild proximal stability? You want to focus on exercises that strengthen and stabilize the scapula and the shoulder. Some of those exercises might be scapular elevation and depression, protraction and retraction, and of course focusing on basic shoulder exercises like flexion, being able to raise the arm up in front of you, as well as abduction out to the side, and internal and external rotation. And again, if you're looking for a specific exercise protocol that goes through the exercises exactly as you need them, make sure to check out this video, and I will have one linked down in the description as well. Now, another thing you can use to rebuild proximal stability is doing table-supported exercises. So if you don't have a ton of movement yet, but you're wanting to rebuild that strength and stability, you can focus on more of those reaching tasks, bending the elbow in and straightening it out, turning the palm up and down. And you can do this all while having your arms supported on a table as kind of the next level of progression. And if you're looking for a specific tabletop exercise protocol for just this case, I'm going to leave a link down in the description. Mistake number 3 is only doing rote exercises and not having any functional practice. So why does this matter? Neuroplasticity, our brain's amazing ability to adapt and change, is task and context specific. Doing 20 hand squeezes sitting at the kitchen table don't automatically transfer to functional tasks like holding your toothbrush or opening the fridge, because your brain isn't just learning a movement, it's learning movement that happens as you move toward a goal with an object or under time demands. This isn't to say that rote exercises are unimportant. They are a very important part of the piece. But without the added functional component, you are missing out on a huge opportunity to build neuroplasticity. So in addition to doing those rote exercises, use the same movements that you're practicing there in functional everyday tasks. So for example, if you're working on grip and release, grab a jar out of your pantry, hold it with your unaffected side, and with your more affected hand, try to grip, open, and then release the lid. You can also do things like trying to open and close a kitchen drawer. Use both hands to carry a laundry basket. Before we move on, I quickly want to say a huge thank you to all of Post-Stroke's channel members. And if you would like to support us this way too and get access to some cool perks, you can do that by clicking the join button down in the YouTube bar below. All right, let's get back to it. Mistake number 4 is waiting for your hand to move before you start using your arm. And this might mean that a lot of things get done one-handed. And that's not inherently wrong. Sometimes you just need to get stuff done, and using your less affected side is much easier and quicker. But this can backfire. This is essentially something called learned non-use. And this is when you learn to not use the affected side because it is easier. It's less time consuming, maybe even less painful. But when you are not using your affected side, even if you have the ability to move it in some capacity, you're telling your brain something. And this is what we would call maladaptive neuroplasticity or bad neuroplasticity, because essentially you're saying, hey, I'm not using that side. The brain says, well, I guess it's not really that important. And so it starts to prune away pathways that go to that arm. So what can you do to counteract this? If you do have movement at your arm, maybe you're able to raise it up a little, raise it up to the side, but you don't necessarily have isolated finger movement. That's okay. Give your arm some work to do. Maybe that's using your elbow to flip a light switch on and off, or turn a faucet on and off. You can use that arm to push a drawer closed, or perhaps push a laundry basket. And this is very important because you have to start rebuilding that mind-body connection to let the brain know, hey, this arm is here. And so hopefully the goal is that once you start getting more arm movement, you will eventually start working towards more hand movement as well, as the brain is remaking connections to that side. Mistake number 5 is not doing enough repetitions. Even if you have a really well-designed home rehab program, you may only be getting 15 to 20 repetitions in per exercise. And based on what we know through the research, it's that we need hundreds, if not thousands of repetitions to start making those neuroplastic changes. Don't get me wrong. It may not be feasible to start out with a ton of repetitions on day 1. That's something that you may need to work up to. But I think it is important that you have this knowledge so you can tuck it away in your brain and then pull that out as you start building up your endurance. But let me be transparent. Building in more repetitions doesn't mean that you need to feel exhausted or be in pain or have a ridiculous home exercise program. You can still have your regular home exercise program, building slowly on your repetitions. But the key on where you are going to get more movement reps in, daily activities. And this comes from my heart, not only as an occupational therapist, where my focus is on getting people back to independence in everyday things, but it's that our brain likes things that are familiar, that are routine, that are habitual. And guess what? Daily tasks are that. Brushing your teeth, opening the toothpaste, getting pills out of a pill box, combing your hair, taking a shower. All of those things rely on movements that you're likely trying to rebuild. Combine what you're already doing with a focus on increasing the amount that you're using your affected side in everyday tasks. Leave me a comment and let me know, what have you found most helpful to improve your hand movement after stroke? And of course, a huge thank you to everyone who supports post-stroke. You can support us too by liking the video, subscribing, becoming a channel member, or leaving us a super thanks by clicking in the YouTube bar below. And thanks of course to our PayPal donors and Patreon members, with a special shout out to Modus Nova and Joseph M in our Empowerer tier. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.